My name's C.K. Buddington. I was the class of 74, the last freshman class that Moon and Tupp coached. We were undefeated, and it just got better from there. I want to thank everybody for being here today for this auspicious event. This is very special for all of us. And let's get started. I'm going to ask Steve Bilsky to come up and say a few words. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, everybody. And I know we're all going to have a Moon story, and there's probably going to be a lot of common themes to it, so I'll just give you a couple of mine. This really has to do with the moment I came to Penn, set foot in the office. Those of you who remember, this is 1967, September 1967. Those of you who remember the layout of the offices at that point is that in the basement of Wayton, the men's basketball office and the track offices were right next to each other. So I arrive on campus and kind of wide-eyed, didn't know anybody, and I walk into the office, and there's Moon greeting me and tells me, "Sit down, Hump, and we'll talk for a little bit." And I'm a little Jewish boy from Long Island, so it's a matter right off the bat we hit. And he talks to me and he tells me how everything's going to work and how things are going to be, and I'm always here for you and so forth. And it was great. It was really heartwarming and wonderful to have somebody befriend me from day one. So I'd come back a few days later and nobody was in the offices, basketball coaches, track coaches, other than Moon. Same thing, here's how things are going, so etc. How you doing? How's classes? Wonderful. I really had somebody looking over me. So, about the second week of school, we begin our conditioning program. We go out on the track. We have to run on Mondays. We have to run 440s. On Tuesdays, we have to run 880s and sprints and so forth, 4 days a week to get in shape. And, who's running the program? Moon. So at this point, I'm thinking Moon's a basketball coach. And that's all he talks about. He doesn't talk about track at all. He just talks about basketball. So I'm saying, well, I kind of knew Dick Harder. He recruited me, and I knew Digger Phelps, but I didn't know the entire staff. So, Moon filled out the staff as far as I'm concerned. He only talked about basketball. And then I see him constantly later on as the season gets closer to practice time. He's always with Digger Phelps, and he's walking him around the track and calming him down, and God knows what he's talking to him about. But I said, well, it's great to have kind of like a senior mentor on the basketball staff as well that works with the other coaches. He's great with the players, and now he's great with the coaches. Finally, I get to see him on a basketball court, and that's the first time that maybe I thought maybe he's not a basketball coach. First of all, he's only wearing underwear, and I'm not talking about underwear top and bottom, I'm talking about underwear on the bottom. I said, well, that's, maybe they haven't given out the gear yet, Things weren't so good back then in terms of finances, so, maybe it may do. Then I saw how he started playing basketball. Now, athletically, as I don't have to tell you, there was nobody who was a greater athlete anywhere around than Moon was at that point. He could dunk either hand, he could jump over you, he'd elbow you in the head. He never knew anybody's name because we all had the same name. But he had an unorthodox way of playing basketball that made me think that, maybe he really wasn't a basketball coach. And then obviously, subsequently, I learned more about him, what a fantastic athlete he had been, and all the wonderful stories that we wind up knowing about Moon. And it was just, he was a friend to all of us and a friend to any sport or anybody for certainly our whole careers there. So I move on, I graduate, I go on, I come back to Penn, late 1970s. My first job in the athletic department is I'm the liaison to the admissions office. Which means that all the coaches funnel their recruits to me, and I represent them on their behalf to admissions. And all the coaches had different ways of presenting their athletes. Some of them put these meticulous lists together, writing everything about, what great athletes, where they were from, character, accolades, all-league this, all-star this, whatever. They'd come in, it would be really a book on them, and that would be the information that you would use to go to the coaches, go to the admissions team. Other coaches would just come in and just lie. Ted Nash was very famous for that. He'd tell you that these guys were the greatest, and they're going to be Olympians and every. I said, Ted, every recruit is an Olympian? Oh yeah, take my word. 6'4", strapling. Moon had a different technique coming in with the track. He'd come into your office and jump on your desk, and you'd be here and you'd come in. Didn't sit in the chair. he'd just like spring up on the desk and talk to you and just say, Hump, I got to tell you how this works. I got to tell you, Moon's approach was the most effective, bar none. I think that had a lot to do with why, over that period of time, we had such great athletes. So, special person, as you all know. Last week I attended the funeral for Charlie Scott, 99 years old, wonderful man. I have to think, going forward, and people looking back, I'm not sure we're producing these kinds of people anymore. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's a sign of the times. I don't know if it's the culture and so forth. But during that era, particularly, we had some special people. Not simply because of their skill as coaches or their ability to recruit, but just really icons at the department. And to me, looking back, I don't know if I could think of two more than Moon and Charlie. So it's wonderful, really just overdue, but wonderful that everybody's here today to celebrate, an icon, one of the really most special people to all of us, and meaningful to all of us. Long Island kid comes here, befriended from day one, and hopefully a friend for life. So Moon, congratulations, really.
Steve ran a little bit over his allotted time, but since you're retiring, I'm not going to stick you, but I still have it in hand. Steve Dolan, would you please come up and kind of catch us up? Run a strong first leg for us here.
That means I have 30 seconds?
Yeah.
All right, well, first of all, what a day for Penn Track and Field, and what a day for the Penn Relays. The sun's out, and we're going to dedicate a world-class throwing facility after a world-class coach. And I couldn't be more honored about the day Irving Moon Mondschein Throws Complex. Athletes will come here for years to come and celebrate in that honor. And then I look out at the group, and this is just what I anticipated. The history of Penn Track and Field, the alums and the coaches from all over that came to honor you, Moon, and be here with us today. It's amazing. And I guess as the current coach here at Penn, thanks so much to all the alums that are here. We've been successful, and it's been great over all these years. So many people have contacted us, email us, follow us, support us financially, and all the things that you do is what this is about, the Penn Track and Field family. So thanks so much. So everybody has a Moon story, and I haven't known him as long as many people here, but I know mine. 22 years ago, I'm at Kutztown, first-year coach at Trenton State College. As a decathlete, as an undergraduate, I knew who Moon was. Moon was a big deal. Olympian, kind of a iconic person to me. So I was introduced to him, his son Brian coaching at Kutztown, Moon helping him at Kutztown. At the long jump, watching the long jump, I got to meet Moon. Honestly, I was a little bit nervous. So I walked over to shake Moon's hand. I still remember how this went. He got me in one of the bad handshakes, where you get the awkward fingers, kind of bad. And I kept thinking, that wasn't a very good first impression when I meet someone who's kind of an icon to me. But 22 years ago, I watched him at that long jump pit and got to meet him. And ever since then, Hartford College and other places, it's been fun to see him over the years. But it's been great. The other thing I look around, and I guess the stories that keep coming up since we've decided and been able to push forward over the last months to make this happen, is you look at all the coaches around the circle here, and I want to acknowledge that it's so great to look out and see all the coaches here at Penn and otherwise that have influenced student athletes. So look out here and I see Charlie Powell, I see Gwen Harris is here, Betty Castanza is here, Julio Piazza is here. So I really want to acknowledge and thank all the great coaches, and I might have missed some here, but some of the great coaches from Penn that have come back to honor Moon, and all the other great coaches around us. Thank you, Penn coaches. And then I look around and I see the other great coaches, some of the legendary coaches in our sport. A good friend of mine, Fred Samara, is here. Al Cantella is here. Tom Donnelly from Haverford is here, and many, many more. And the reason I bring that up is what's come through loud and clear about Moon is we all want to win. We all want to help athletes be the very best athlete they can. But what's really clear is that we have chances as coaches to influence people's lives, and that's kind of the greatest thing we get to do. So Moon, it's come through very clear that these people are here because you helped them run, jump, and throw. But more than that, they're here because they love you and you've changed their lives. So to all of us coaches, you inspire us, and you've proven that a good guy can win. So thanks so much. Congrats.
really good recruiter because you talk a lot. It's my pleasure now to introduce my boss, the director of the Penn Relays, Dave Johnson.
I have to keep this short, right?
Right.
Right, okay.
You want to be on time up there, you've got to keep it short here.
Okay, one quick story about Moon, and it has nothing to do with track. We're back to basketball. 1980 U.S. Olympic trials in Eugene, Oregon for track and field. I'm walking away from the track one day, and there's Moon and Marty Stern. They're playing pickup basketball against two 20-year-olds, guys who can run and jump and dunk. And Moon and Marty are beating the tar out of them. And the true hump in the gentleman is that Moon gets every rebound. He's just got his butt out there, and he's wide. He's big, and nobody gets around him. Marty's sinking 20-foot set shots from atop the key, and they can't keep up. And they are really annoyed. But that's the way life is for youth. You know, that if they don't understand what it takes to get through and to become accomplished and to keep moving from there, then you don't get to be a Moon. Anyways, I want to thank all the alums who put in so much effort, and not just their dollars, but real concern, who helped push this whole stadium complex along. You know, the mound up there, some people have already referred to it as Mount Tennessee. I think that's, we have other honors for Tony sometime far down in the future. For now, I'm just going to call that the hump.
Obvious that I'm going to have to find a more appropriate weapon to use to speed things along. It's my pleasure now to introduce the Betty Castanza, head women's track coach of the University of Pennsylvania, and the man instrumental for this all happening today, Tony Tennessee.
When I'm going to look at you, just you, because, yeah. Come on, use your hips, relax. Don't be so uptight, you got to be loose. When I first came here in '86, I couldn't believe that I had been offered the job by Betty Castanza to come to Penn. I was at Cornell prior to that, and that was a wonderful experience, but I had always looked at Penn as the place to be. And God willing, it happened. And Steve, you talk about people in the past, that they don't make them like that anymore. That's very true. But we have a really great group of young people that will also fill those shoes. But the people who were here were so extraordinary. And Moon, you were so important to me, because I was at the beginning of my career here at Penn. We stood next to each other by the circles, and we laughed, and you told jokes, and you kept it real, and you reached out, and you did it all in the ways that I admire so much. You're a great technician, but you did it from love. You did it from your heart. No one did not get that, and you really embraced us all. You've been my mentor. You've been my role model. I've been here 28 years. I outlasted you by 6. Who would have thought, huh? But when this was built, you were the first person in my mind, because I wanted your name on this facility. It is a state-of-the-art facility. I've had nothing but most amazing compliments on this. It is just a destination for us humps. For years we were down here and no one saw us other than the people that just cared about us, our mother and our father and hopefully our coach. And everything was in the stadium, and yes, that's wonderful, and it's Franklin Field, and that's a part of Penn Relays. But we are a third of the program. We work as hard as anyone else. We dedicate our time and our life to this. We love what we do. We are throwers, and I wanted a destination for throwers. So people who love us can come and sit comfortably surrounding us, respecting us, giving us the energy that we need to do what we do well. you know. And I look at you, and you reflect all of the qualities of this facility, Moon. I love you to death. Please enjoy what you see here. Thank you all for coming back. Welcome home. You're home. This is the best part of your lives happened here. You know it. You know, come back, be our friends, shake our hands, stand on the hump over there. Come and be with us. There's food here. You can eat. It's okay. You're not going to starve. And be a part of this Penn family. This is an extraordinary place for an extraordinary man. Moon, I love you to death. Thank you, baby.
Now is when we're going to have some real fun. I had the privilege of choosing 3 people to represent basically 3 generations of Moon's coaching tenure here at Penn. 3 different levels of success, 3 different levels of history of this event. And so I'm going to first start off by introducing Larry Gaines, class of 70. Larry, come on up, share your thoughts. And keep them short.
I have to say, first of all, that I'm very honored and appreciative for this unexpected opportunity to thank you in person and in this event, you know, at this place and this time today. Kenny Dietz would just love to be here. He's the real mover and shaker behind all of this. One of the things that you taught us that endures is that family always comes first, and Kenny has a family situation that prohibit him from being here. So that gave me a chance to come and be here today. You can't imagine how much Kenny wants to be here. He's been texting me nonstop, wants to know who's this Mattis fellow that broke my 25-year-old discus record. Have you met him yet? Have you seen him yet? What does he look like? What's the story with him? Take pictures, take lots of pictures and everything. So, Mr. Mattis, if you're in the audience, in all seriousness, Kenny and I both have the greatest respect for you and wish you nothing but the greatest success today in your event. And we really admire your accomplishments very much as one discus thrower to another. So, teachers affect eternity. They never know where their influence ends. And among at least 3 generations of family and athletes, your influence is still very strong. I mean, look at Fred Samara, look at Giulio Piazza. I see all these people that I was in here with. I was one of your first humps. And I guess you and I both came in the fall of '66. And I remember the first time I met you, I didn't have any idea who you were. I had respect for you just automatically. Something about your aura, I guess, and it was only later that I found out that I was in the presence of royalty, of such royalty, and it was very humbling to do that. But you always were the best possible father figure that anybody could imagine, and you were always patient, and you were constructive. You never yelled at anybody. You never criticized. You corrected. You instructed, and very few people know this, but you could have literally been my biological father, not just a father figure. One day at practice, and by the way, for those of you who don't know, in the 60s, the discus, the shot, sometimes the javelin, and the hammer were all competed in Franklin Field. And the hammer circle was on the other side of the track. So when Williams and Ackery and the rest of you guys, you wimpy runners, would be running intervals for Tuck, and the hammer guys were getting ready. You know, it was amazing that nobody ever got hurt because everybody was really very aware and cognitive. But one day you and I were at practice at the circle, and it was just the 2 of us. We started talking, getting to know each other, and discovered that we were both born in Brooklyn, that my mother was born in Brooklyn, and that caught your attention. Because I remember my mother was a looker when she was in junior high and high school. So we started talking about that and everything, and longer story shorter, you dated her for a while. So, who are your first humps besides me? We had, you inherited Freddie Puritz, who came from the same high school as Kenny came from later, and Jack Levitan, who came from the same county in New Jersey that I came from, and I knew Jack from our high school days. Barry Solomon was a hammer thrower. He was pound for pound easily the strongest one of all of us, a little fire plug. He's now an Orthodox Jew. He lives in Israel, and there's no way he's going to travel on Shabbat to be here. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. You've had that kind of impact on all of us. And then in the next fall, Rod Frankel transferred from West Point. I won't tell you about Rod. He's probably not here because he's probably still out chasing skirts like he always did. But that's another story for another time. And of course, Kenny came the next year. And I'll just tell you one story about me and Levitan. Levitan was a lot taller than me. He was about 6'5", 6'6", about 230, 235 pounds. I was 6'3". On a good day, I might have been 195. Oh, to be 195 again. And Levitan had this 50cc Honda motorcycle, and we lived north on Walnut Street in the 40s, the low 40s. So one day he offered me a lift home on his 50cc motorcycle. Now imagine 450 pounds of romping, stomping, muscular weight men on a 50cc Honda. If we hit that light at 33rd and Walnut, where the incline begins, and the light was red, we knew that instead of us riding a Honda the next 10 blocks, the Honda was going to be riding us the next 10 blocks. So that was a lot of fun. And I remember going to Coors Farms, which was a place out in the Northeast where you had family-style steak. They brought you this huge steak and all the trimmings, and if you finished the steak and you wanted another one, no extra charge. So I go out there with these other guys, and we order family-style steak for 6, and there were 4 of us. We always ate. They didn't make any money off of us, I promise you. But throwing the hammer in there and throwing the discus in there, I remember the discus circle was in the end zone, and they had the goalposts up in Franklin Field, and after a while they switched from wood to the metal goalposts, and they never took them down when we would practice. So all of a sudden practice became punctuated with pings of the discus bouncing off of various parts of the metal goalpost and so forth. It was an amazing time. Moon, by your example, you've taught all of us the concept of paying it forward before that was a phrase even. And for that, I think we're all eternally grateful. There's only one Moon. It was great to be one of your first humps. And on behalf of the athletes of the 60s, the decade of the 60s, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. It's terrific to be here.
It's my pleasure. Excuse me. It's my pleasure now to introduce one of my captains, a man that used to use me for fodder in decathlon fields just to fill out the field. The current head coach, very successful head coach at Princeton University, Fred Samara.
Good morning. First, I want to say this is an amazing group of people here, and it's such a rewarding thing to see that from Moon, and he certainly deserves it. As CK said, I'm class of 73. I'm sorry I'm wearing this Princeton gear, but I do have a job at a little school north of here. But you know, I'm proudly wearing this Penn hat on this great occasion. To quote Yankee legend Yogi Berra in his induction to the Baseball Hall of Fame, I just want to thank everyone who made this day necessary. Well, Moon, this day is very necessary and a long time coming. Just as Yogi was a legend, you too are a legend, mentor, and inspiration to so many people. Words cannot express how much you meant to me and the many other young lives you have influenced over your historic career. You know, this throwing area is amazing, and it serves as a permanent and long-lasting, it'll have a long-lasting impact to all of Penn athletics and to the sport and track and field as well. You know, Moon, you were the first Just Do It man. Nike owes you a lot. I know a lot of the jumpers, every one of your jumpers heard the expression on their third attempt. Just clear it, hump. We all knew what that meant. I mean, just get out there and clear it. Do it. It's very simple, but right to the point. It meant a lot to me. No thinking. Moon taught me a lot. I remember my freshman year, we were at Franklin Field, and he said, be there at 3. I was there. Now, I don't know who it was, but the guy was late. Moon was livid, and he taught me what I have as one of the most valuable concepts in my coaching career. Never be late for practice, and it applies to everyone's profession. It's a simple concept, but what it means, it says respect the sport, respect your teammates, respect the coach, and most of all, show that you are ready to be the best you can be with no excuses. You know, I owe a lot and really everything to Moon in my athletic career and my coaching career. Following in his footsteps as a coach, it was his tireless work ethic, constant support of his student athletes, and his vast, vast technical knowledge. There is no better coach in the country than Moon. These are the traits that I've tried to emulate in my 36 years at Princeton. Happy to say we've done pretty well. Moon, a lot of guys have said this, but I truly believe this. You were a second father to all of us. Sometimes telling a funny joke to keep us loose. Jokes like, there was a man from Nantucket. I'm not finishing it. Or how about the old bull and the young bull on top of the hill? I'm not finishing that one. There's a lot of them. But you kept us loose, and it was great. Because practice has to be fun. And you did a great job. You were a second father. Moon, we love you, and are thankful that we all could share this day with you and your family. Thank you so much.
Fred, if that was 2 minutes and 34 seconds, then I really did run the 100 meters in 10.5. I'm glad Fred mentioned the limericks. One side note that I have to mention, and I know, there's a book called the Limerick Book, and then there's a book called the New Limerick Book, and they're both about this thick, and they're filled with literally hundreds and hundreds of limericks. You could open to any page, take your hand, put it down, start the limerick, he would finish any one of them. I don't know how he did it, and still retain the ability to coach us all in the technical intricacies of our sport, but he did. It's just an amazing man. Love you dearly. The final gentleman to speak tonight is another decathlete who I had the pleasure of following his career when he was here later on during Moon's career here at Penn, Frank Harrison.
Thank you, CK, and I'll try to comply with the time as best I can. And Moon, if I don't look at you, it's probably because I'll start crying. So my wife has told me, make sure no crying. I'm going to get through it. If you watch any of the major football championships today, you'll know they end with the famous Gatorade shower. I looked up the history of the Gatorade shower. There's a little bit of a debate, but it goes back to somewhere around 1985, 1986 between the Chicago Bears and Harry Carson of the New York Giants. But what most people don't know or realize is we had our own tradition here at Penn, a splash tradition, and it's every time we won the league championship, something we did a lot, Fred, we'd take his big old butt, Moon's, and we throw him in the steeplechase pit. We won one year in Harvard, and we beat Princeton by 1 point in the final event, again. And it was February 1981. The outside temperature was about 8 degrees. The temperature in the Charles River, we looked it up later, was 38. And we had to keep the tradition alive. So with several of my teammates who were here, we lured Coach Moon out of his bed late at night. We hauled his big butt across the street and we tossed him in the Charles River to keep it all going. And typical Moon, in the Daily Pennsylvanian the next day, as when we came back to campus, he said, "I just hope they don't hold the meet in Alaska next year." I'm going to read something I also looked up. The University of Pennsylvania mission statement. It reads, in part, "Penn inspires, demands, and thrives on excellence, and will measure itself against the very best in every field or endeavor in which it participates." I couldn't find a more apt statement that is a complete personification of the man. We took on the best, and we went after him. A man to whom we owe so much. A man who made us not just better athletes, he did that, that was the easy part, but he made us into men. He taught us about humility, he taught us about drive, he taught us about success, he taught us about equality. He taught us so much more than any ordinary coach could ever do. He made us feel good about ourselves. He made us feel good about each other. He bonded the team like none other coach I've ever seen before or since. I don't know if anybody really knows or got to know Moon on a real personal level from his own past and upbringing, but as he will tell you, Moon was a street kid, a street fighter from Brooklyn. He took a bunch of other street kids here at the University of Pennsylvania, kids like me, also a street kid, and he molded us into champions. And he did it with grace and laughter. And as great an athlete as he was, he never talked about his own achievements, ever, never once. The only thing he cared about was trying to make us even better than he was. And Elliot Denman, who's here, wrote an article this week. I couldn't believe it when I read it, although I should have. It's pretty hard to outdo Moon as an athlete. Moon, his NYU high jump record still stands today, 65 years after he set it in 1949. Unbelievable. I don't know if any of those throwers out there can hear me. I hope they can. And I don't know if we have any throwers in this audience here today, but I've got a little piece of advice for you. Bomb your throws today, men. Bomb the living daylights out of them, because trust me when I say this, you want to set a stadium record and you want to do it today. You want to have your name associated with that extraordinary athlete and man that's being honored here today, so go for it. Go for the gusto. It's there. Mo, who I gather is not here, Mark is here, Brian is here, Ilana is here. What a great tribute it must be to all of you to see that wonderful Mondschein name out there hanging over these fields, representing us all us athletes from the past, and the name hovering over all the great athletes that'll be yet to come. It's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. I would also say this, today is literally the proudest day of my life to be one of the ones selected to represent my teammates in our generation in honoring you. All the words were said before. He went to the Olympics in 1948 in London. Last year in 2012, the Olympics, as you know, returned to London, and the theme of the Olympics was to inspire a generation. Well, in Moon's case, his London connection, he inspired several generations. And I can just tell you this, Moon, as long as I have breath in my body, I'm going to carry out your jokes, your traditions. I'm going to be loyal and faithful to everything you taught me while my time here. I just wish the whole world could hear me say it right now, and speaking on behalf of all of my teammates that are here, I love you. We love you. I'm so lucky and proud to have come to this institution at a time when you were here. And I just think it's the greatest thing in the world that this prestigious university, the street kid from Brooklyn, his name will reign forever and ever. We love you, Moon. Congratulations.
Thank you, Frank. Couple of side notes. We're almost done. I'd like to inform you all, Coach Denisi informed me that Sam Mattis will be throwing at 12:30, right up here on the Irving Moon Mondschein Discus Circle. And so we invite you all to stay for that, to see Sam, the next generation of great athletes here at Penn. Warm-ups are at noon. In addition, I'd like to ask everyone that spoke today to just join me up here when we're done with the unveiling so that we can get a quick picture of all of us together, okay? And now, without further ado, I'd like you to turn your shoulder over to the right-hand side here, and Steve and Joe from our Athletic Development Department will unveil the sign.